And greetings once again to the third edition of Elets National CIO Conclave. This conclave, this conference, which we had started today early in the morning and will go on for whole of the course of the day today as well as tomorrow. This 2 days conference, Elets Technomedia will be deliberating and discussing upon the challenges and opportunities in the digital scape. The COVID pandemic has brought some tectonic changes, some far reaching changes in the entire sectors of the economy worldwide. The question now today is not of how much technological innovations would be there or how fast would be the pace of digitalization of organization processes and products. The question is not of when this digitalization will take place. Rather, the question is, will the companies who are not able to join this digital bandwagon, will they be able to survive this digital warfare or not? That is a larger question. And to discuss and brainstorm all these issues, Elets Technomedia, in collaboration with its flagship magazine on banking and financial sector, BFSI Post, is truly delighted to present this 2 days conference, the third edition of Elets National CIO Conclave, where we have the theme of New Age CIOs thinking beyond business continuity and resilience. Over the course of these 2 days, we'll be talking to a host of experts from the technology and digital landscape from a wide spectrum of the economy, ranging from pharmaceutical and healthcare to retail to media and entertainment to manufacturing to BFSI, automotive, and e-commerce. So it's a pleasure here to be joined here by an eminent guest here, Anuprita Daga, President and Chief Information Security Officer of Yes Bank Limited. Anuprita Daga, we'll be having a short discussion of around 30 minutes with Anuprita Daga. We'll be discussing how have been the Yes Bank's journey been there before the pandemic, during the pandemic, and post the pandemic, and what are her key initiatives and innovations, and what is the strategy of Yes Bank at large to cope up with the fast-paced digitization. A brief introduction of Anuprita. Anuprita is an experienced professional with a demonstrated history of working in the banking industry. She has a strong business development acumen, professionally skilled in operations management, team building, management, pre-sales, and management information system. Anuprita Daga will be having a discussion on centralizing data security in banks with data virtualization. Warm welcome to this panel discussion, to this fireside chat, rather, Anuprita.
Thank you so much, Krishna.
So, Anuprita, as I mentioned, that the impact of the COVID had been of huge consequence to the entire humanity. Over the course of last 100 years, humanity has not seen a change of such a magnitude. I hope you agree with this statement. And I hope you also agree that although digitalization was always there, nobody had debated or doubted the role of technology and the role of technology in giving a differential consumer experience, a different consumer experience. But what the pandemic actually did was it precipitated the digitization of all these organizations. I remember 15 years back, not very long back, 15 years back, the digitization was seen as one of the differentiators from the competition. How do we differentiate ourselves, our products, our processes, our organization from the competition? We used to adopt digitization, but now it has become of fundamental importance and existential consequence. So, Anuprita, how would you define the security landscape in the current era with regard to banks? How are you securing your data? Because, as I mentioned, more and more we digitize, more and more are the challenges also coming with the fast-paced digitalization. Whether we talk of data security, we talk of data privilege, we talk of information security, cyber attacks, cyber security, and banks are one such entity which are having humongous data. So upkeep of that data is also a task in itself. So your comments.
So I think as you mentioned, like in last 2 years, pandemic is the completely different transformation on a technology side what we have seen. And what I feel is that wherever the technology, there is going to be a cybersecurity. And last 2 years, it's not only on the pandemic from the health perspective, but even if you see the kind of incidents what has happened in last 2 years is the way people are being targeted is enormous. So one is that how do you, so there are two things. Okay, data is always protected with people, process, and technology, right? And where you have a control of process and technology, but people is another very important aspect. What we cannot have the control over it, but we can just have the awareness about the do's and don'ts, what should be having it. So if you see the technology controls is in last 2 years, one is that suddenly we moved from the business, the office premises to the work from home, and work from home happened, I think, probably within days time kind of thing, right? Was that a prepared strategy? It wasn't a prepared strategy. It was the survival when this started, right? I mean, March 2020, when we had that lockdown and everything, and then everybody was working from home. It was a survival that, today I have a risk of data protection, data providing a remote data, let's say sensitive data like card data, customer data over the internet remotely. At the same time, because there were so many phishing attacks, there was so much of chaos in the market on whether banks will be working, banks will not be working, and we didn't have a choice of working an office, right? Calling people is in office, because human is the biggest factor, but we were really worried about that. But in last 2 years, so although it was the boon and a bane both, right? The way the technology has evolved, the way the banking system has evolved. If you see before March 2020, the utilization, or rather the adoption of UPI was very less. The adoption of video KYC was actually not there, right? I mean, you have seen in last 2 years there are so many fintechs which are coming out with so many concepts, right? New concepts, and there is a openness in the market to adopt this technology. So there is a huge shift which has happened from traditional banking to the digital banking, and that is I can say, uh, it's good from the industry perspective, because we are, one, the job market has increased. Second is from the technology perspective, obviously. We don't have a choice now. In last 2 years, everybody is so much comfortable using the digital platform. Right from, it's not, again, you don't need a literacy for that. Right from rickshawalas, right from the maids, the domestic help, right from the children. You don't have to carry physical cash while you go to the market, right? Anybody who, even if you don't know the technology, still smartphones are the most widely used, and digital platforms are most widely used. So it was such a blessing for the industry to have those. At the same time, there is also a issue on the technology platform, and nothing fits. There is no single logic which can provide you. And that's where, if you see my start, people, process, and technology, we need to have the controls, the cybersecurity controls, or information security controls, or data controls. It should start from the product design, it should start from the process design, the platform creation, and the post facto. So it has to be security by design, and what we were preaching till now everybody has started doing that, right? So until unless you set that correct from the foundation itself, nothing, there is no single solution which will help. And it has to be from the product level itself, from the risk based monitoring perspective, from processes perspective, call center perspective, the kind of controls what you are providing it to a consumer. Because you can't say that, I have provided a platform and I just leave it to a consumer, the banking customer. If you share your credentials with the attacker, then we can't take care of it, or we do not care about that. So I think this is end to end, and the way the system is evolved, the culture is evolved. Okay, at every step we have to add these. That can only provide us the data security.
Well said, Anuprita Daga. Very pertinent point you mentioned, that if we talk of data security, that the security element has to be infused or inbuilt at three levels: one, product; two, processes; and three, people. Now, product and process is something which you can design or we as an experts can design. But the third element is people. I'll come back to this question on this question to you, because I have seen instances in the banks where there have been instances of data leakage, or there has been instances of breach of data at the level of the employees. So what are the checks and balances you are doing in checks and balances you have in place in Yes Bank, or what is the industry practice? I'll come back to that in due course of the discussion. But before that, what helps you reevaluate existing back office and front end controls and processes, keeping security at the center?
So one is that, as I mentioned, so one is that very, very important when we say security at the center, and it is process level. What is very important is that, first of all, Krishna, I'd like to say that, there is, again, most of these are the general concepts what we, as a practitioner, we adopted.
Mm.
Here, I'm talking about as and as the professional what should be done, and it is not related to Yes Bank. Yes Bank, yes, we have internal controls, practices, and policies and all, which can't be disclosed publicly. So this is my, as a professional, this is my view as a cybersecurity practitioner. This is why my view, and which everybody will be practicing it,
No, no,
and that
just
is
for
what.
the sake of record and just for the sake of knowledge for the audience here, ladies and gentlemen, let us just inform that this is a discussion on the general trends in the banking industry. We are not talking something which is particular to Yes Bank. We might be
Correct.
discussing something some initiatives or some innovations, but as far as the trend of data security is concerned or the processes are concerned, we are going to discuss industry best practices.
Yeah, thank you so much, Krishna. Yeah. So, coming back to how can we put a or security at the center stage of the processes, right? What is most important part is that if you see, in the previous one, I was talking about the way technology is evolved. In addition to that, there is also one more thing which is evolved, is the kind of partnering what we do it. The way fintech has come with different concept, and then we also have a opportunity, the business opportunity where we adopt these technology initiatives and then put it. And but as we adopt different technologies, it's very important to have even align your processes. So the processes which you work in a traditional environment and the processes what you work in a digital environment also has to be aligned. And what is important is that, as I mentioned, the productive, I mean, the security by from product design, security from the product processes, how do you put the reconciliation, and processes. Again, there are new adoption which have started, like for example, we try to optimize the SLAs, the tags, and where we are, what is important is that how do you, at every step of a process, one is that do we have a transparency and traceability of the data where we are sharing it, what exactly we are doing with this data, are we sharing the sensitive data with someone else, when we are sharing sensitive data with some third party or internal or external, what kind of controls what we put it, and how do we ensure that this data doesn't go in wrong hands, right? So that is one. Second thing is, as digital platforms has been adopted, so at different steps we also need to put down the risk-based transaction monitoring. We have to put what is the kind of threshold, like is there something going wrong, and for that we have to see the user behavioral analysis, or the kind of predictive analysis, even in terms of security, is very, very important. When we see that, let's say if I have 10 alerts in a day, and then suddenly we are getting 1,000 alerts in a day, is there something going wrong? So that kind of monitoring, the kind of process level monitoring, the post process level monitoring, in a security perspective, is very, very important. And it has changed the whole structure that what we monitor it. Because earlier, if you see the security, it was very preventive security
Mm.
kind of thing, right? Now we talk about, we can't have a prevention, and we have to have the monitoring perspective. We need to have early detection and quick time to mitigation. So in 2 years, the whole agenda or the whole objective of security monitoring has changed. And instead of saying the preventive security, we are talking about that there is no perimeter, all the perimeters are blurred. Now, in this case, how do we detect early, and then how do we quickly mitigate it? So that is for the cybersecurity, that is a mantra. I think a lot of industry players have started adopting it.
So thank you, Anuprita. That was Anuprita Daga. In fact, Anuprita, you had already answered my previous query. In fact, in your opening comments, you had mentioned about the security being infused at three different levels. One was at the level of products, second was at the level of processes, and third was at the level of people. So the people part was something which you have just covered. That we banking sector at large is having checks and balances in place. And when I talk of people, I'm not only talking about the internal people, there are external stakeholders also, and internal stakeholders also. And as you have rightly mentioned, that you are having checks and balances in place, and the focus has now shifted from preventive security to a mode wherein there is a constant surveillance, constant monitoring, and the focus is on early detection of fraud, if any is happening, and then taking preventive steps. Well said, Anuprita Daga. Now, moving on to the next question, Anuprita. In your view, how important is data security compliance for banks and financial services in the ongoing circumstances? Because you would agree with me that banks and financial sector is an entity which deal with humongous amount of data. And when I talk of data, much of this information is very private. So this data in today's time is also known as the new currency, the new gold. So what are the checks and balances or initiatives the banking sector at large is taking, is adopting for the safe upkeep of this data? Anuprita Daga.
So I have a little different view on this. I feel that yes, I completely agree that bank is having the gold mine of this data, and data is a new oil. So which is what we are really talking for long years. Uh, Again, but data. So earlier, what we were calling data as financial fraud is the one what we were always considering, that where we have a data, card data should be protected. Now the time has been changed, right? Because if you see globally, that everybody is talking about the privacy. Even ESG index has lot of weightage on the privacy, right? So now, earlier, is it that only banks shall take care of the protection of the data? I feel that bank should definitely take care of protection of the data, because if there is any financial instrument information which has been leaked, which can be exploited and which will have a financial impact to it. But as we talk about data is a new oil, so we are not talking about the car data here, or we are not talking about the payment data here. We are talking about the personal data here. And if you see globally, all the countries one after other, like GDPR was the first, so European data privacy was the first to be launched and implemented, but all other countries are also rolling out the data privacy, and soon India will also be rolling out the data privacy. So here what we are talking about, the privacy of a consumer, right? And that privacy of the consumer is also very, very important in other industries also, other than banking and finance industry. Because, and again, as I mentioned in my previous one, there are a lot of fintechs which are coming out, right? There is a lot of technology platform which is coming up. There is network perimeter is getting blurred. People are adopting cloud. People are having the partnering with the e-commerce platform, with the fintech platforms, right? So in such cases, when the data, whether banking has to take care of the data protection, I feel that the whole ecosystem should take care of data protection. And where partners, the technology partners, the business outsourcing partners also play a big part of it, because partial data is with you, but then partial data, either it is coming from fintech partners, or it is being integrated with fintech partners, or maybe at the consumer level, when you're providing, for example, if you see any kind of e-commerce platform, they're providing you everything, right? Either maybe e-commerce services, maybe the consumer procurement, or electronics, or banking payments and everything. And from your single app itself, you're able to check your balance, you're able to transfer, the wallets has come, the UPI has come, which is giving you most of the maximum services what every consumer needs it, and everything is on your fingertip. So I would say that, not only banking, the whole ecosystem should be aware about all this thing. A whole ecosystem, even all the partners who are working with the bank or providing any consumer services to the consumer should also take care of the data protection and the data privacy of a customer.
Okay, moving on, Anuprita, what are your views on data visualization? Visualization? Are banks in India using it to ensure resilience?
Uh, See
Could you
again,
get my question or should I repeat it?
yeah, I got your question. Only
Huh.
thing is, what I'm saying is that data visualization and data virtualization, these are the two things what everybody is talking about it, right? Again, on visualization perspective, because the transformation has taken up, and as we are sitting of a mine of data, right? And how do we capitalize on that data, right? So the whole model is becoming digitized one, and we can definitely mine it and come out with a right kind of campaign for every customer, or right kind of product for every customer. So a lot of the artificial intelligence or machine learning is being used, and that is helping the business to find out in an optimal way what is my customer need, and what kind of product what I should be providing to the customer. So there is quite a bit adoption which has started in the industry now, and that adoption is whether you have on-prem or you have adoption implementation on the cloud. That is the only different what is happening right now. Again, this is start, and I'm seeing there's a tremendous benefit or tremendous potential what people will be taking out from the data what company has collected it.
Okay. How are your data integration strategies evolving during the new normal?
Uh, so when data integration, one is that internal data integration where you have a control. Okay, but maybe I'd like to put up more focus uh, on the third party integrations, because third party integration, everything we are trying to provide it on a fingertip, and there's lot of adoption on the API integration between the two different partners which is happening. Because let's say if I'm using a particular app, okay, and from that I'm getting multiple services, how can I have a real time integration with the partner so that there is a seamless experience what we are giving it to the consumer. Okay, now in this case there's quite a bit API integration which are being started, and the API, the way we are talking about the data security, even API security is going to be on the center stage of it subsequently, because of the technology adoption, because of the fintech partners, and because of the whole uh, partnering approach, the business model which is being adopted.
Thank you, Anuprita Daga. You have covered most of the points. One concluding point, which we would like to have your comments upon, the data management. How do you view, or how do you see the data management per se, the evolution of data management, how we used to upkeep the data 10 years before today, during the pandemic and post-pandemic? What do you see the major changes would be there? Actually, if I talk of technology, it's an ever-evolving field. What
Yeah.
is in vogue today becomes obsolete tomorrow. So your comments.
So as you mentioned, like 10 years back, so 10 years back we had only up to data warehousing, and there were some predictive models. But now if you see, the data science has been the buzzword in the market. Even right from academics learning perspective, there are subjects, special courses on the data sciences and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and everything. And the business adoption has already started. And what is most important, and as you mentioned here, that how do we manage this data, because there is a ocean of a data, then how do you manage it? Now those are the days which are gone, where we have relational database and cubes and everything, because here everybody is talking about the big data, everybody is talking about how do we mine this, and how do we find out what is the trend, what my customer needs from my structured data and unstructured data. And I think big data is the only solution. What I see is eventually might be going to, so traditional solutions will be kept only, and that is my personal view, but then traditional
Mhm.
databases will be kept for the transactional systems, and all that reporting and everything will be coming from the big data. The kind of customer profiling, it is being done through structured and unstructured data. Another thing which is very recently started and not much adopted, but then the social profiling of a customer or a consumer will also be considered as a part of customer profiling. And some state this is being done, but it is not widely accepted. But maybe subsequently, that will be a part of. I think the way we have a credit rating, even for customer rating, I think social profiling, we were we were reading these theories. I mean, you and me might have read it at some point of time, that social profile will be the one integral part of this credit rating. And I
Mhm.
think those days are on. Those days are going to come now, and subsequently, maybe soon, even that will also be a part of individual credit rating. So I think the whole gambit of uh, utilization of the data is going to be changed, and the integration of structured and unstructured data will give a lot of benefits from the consumer offering perspective. At the same time, there will be quite a bit huge risk also, that exploitation of a personal information also might happen. And that is where I think reasonable security level will be very, very important, and privacy is going to play a huge role in this case.
Well said, Anuprita, that as and when we move on to more and more data, there would be one-off cases here and there that exploitation of the personal data could be there, or there could be a kind of breach in the data security. And that is why people like Anuprita Daga are there in the organizations whose role is to upkeep that data and ensure that the organization vision and mission both are being met along with the objectives. So that was Anupita Daga, President and CEO of Yes Bank Limited. A very nice and candid conversation. We touched upon a host of subjects ranging from structured and unstructured data and moving from traditional data management to the role of big data and the role of big data into data mining, getting some value insights from those data mining and proving we giving these as their leading decision inputs. Thank you, Anuprita.
Thank you so much.
It was a pleasure hosting Anuprita Daga here, President and CISO of Yes Bank Limited. This program will go on today as well as tomorrow. The objective of this program is to bring together some of the finest brains from the technology landscape from different sectors of the economy to come identify the challenges and opportunities which are coming up with a lightning speed. So before we conclude this session, a small token of gratitude from Elets Technomedia for our guest here, Ms. Madam Anuprita Daga. A small token of gratitude for Anuprita Daga, President and Chief Information Security Officer, Yes Bank Limited. Thank you, Anuprita Daga, for taking out time and sharing your wisdom and inputs on this very interesting topic of data, centralizing data security in banks with data virtualization. Indeed, the time of data virtualization has come. Thank you and best wishes.
Thank you so much.